and welcome back to another video here from the studio. I'm AmzroSevca, and today I'm going to discuss the state of Sonic Frontiers, the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, its developers, and the fanbase. This is a video that I've had on my mind for a long time, but have never really been able to find the time to talk about it before. But since I have a free period at the moment, I figured now would be better than ever. So, what has been going on with Sonic lately? He received 2 films, several games with mixed reception, except 2 which have received high praise, being Frontiers and Mania, and a catch-up video from IGN. Sonic at this point in time is slowly trying to get back on his feet after years of poor releases and a lack of direction that's marred the franchise for the greater part of the 2000s up until the present day. And SEGA seems to be slowly learning their lesson, or so I hope, that keeping one of their development teams on a dog leash and backing them into a creative corner every single time is proving to do more harm than good in terms of public reception. And I say public reception instead of sales because even the most mediocre Sonic games have still been able to bring scores of cash for Big Ol' Sammy. Many of the issues that the Sonic franchise faces present day comes largely from SEGA's relationship with Sonic Team and the Sonic fanbase itself. Over the years, the Sonic franchise and fanbase have been heavily criticized, and it's no real secret why. Sonic has been left to stumble time and time again by the developers simply because after the days of, I'm going to say the dreaded game, Sonic 2006, SEGA seemed hellbent on ensuring that the Sonic team made anything that wasn't Sonic 2006, and they were not so much concerned with seeing a good Sonic game be made. This was typically the result of games being produced but then not expanded upon in following entries. So many plausible ideas never got to see the light of day or mature to where they could be reasonably sized up. But on the other end, you have Sonic fans who more or less never really know what they want, and if they do, they are very much obstinate about compromise or combining things together to recalibrate Sonic's identity. We have seen Sonic go from a you learn, you fly platformer to a hold this button to win series to a we don't want you touching anything reaction attraction. And now with Sonic Frontiers, we're now finding some sort of common ground because it would appear that Sonic Team has finally decided to take all those ideas that they so graciously discarded and combine them together to try and make a more centralized idea of what Sonic is supposed to be and how Sonic is supposed to play. But many fans lack progressive reasoning and productive debate skills, so the formulation of their feedback and opinions is typically very incomprehensible and destructive. As with the release of Sonic Frontiers, there has been a massive divide on the state of the game between Sonic fans, gaming journalists, and non-Sonic fans. And the attitudes that have accompanied these stances has led to a lot of blind hatred and blind apologetics that has left the field a muddy mess like World War I's No Man's Land. And unfortunately, what we are seeing with Sonic Frontiers is not unique to it, but is rather a symptom that can be found throughout the entire series. People will blindly hate or praise a game, which will then lead to others blindly apologizing for it or condemning it. Sonic Frontiers released and many individuals were hyping it up as the best game ever. And as it turned out, most of these individuals were Sonic fans. And Sonic fans have had a very rocky history because of a very rocky franchise that has had very rocky quality. So, naturally, whenever a new title gets released, many of us want it to be passively playable and better than whatever the bar got lowered to. But due to our expectations being dragged so low, the bar was set at the bare minimum expectations and has been ever since Shadow the Hedgehog 05 and Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Anything that is playable is considered to be a win, which is rather disturbing. A YouTuber I recently watched, Yakko, discuss Sonic Frontiers and its shortcomings, and as someone who put 50 plus hours into Sonic Frontiers and declared that I had a relatively enjoyable time with it, I must be honest, many of the critiques that have come out against the game are more than objectively valid. There are plenty of issues that plague the game and hold it back, but for those who are simply looking for a product to enjoy at all costs, like as long as it's better than Sonic Forces and Sonic Lost World, Sonic Frontiers delivers. But in that scope, that isn't really quite saying a whole lot when you realize how low the bar was dropped from the days of Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2. Both those games had their own serious flaws, but they were the basis for something good, similar to Sonic Frontiers. However, after the Venture identity faded in obscurity and the second Dark Age took hold, Sonic never was quite able to bounce back, and the Boost era got largely overshadowed by the bad publicity that was holding Sonic by the neck due to the likes of Sonic 06. Even as the years have gone on, I have found a desync between consistency and logic and the Sonic fanbase. Now, as we speak, there are those who have become more vocal about the state of the Sonic storybook games on the Wii that were manufactured in place of a 06 Wii port. But it was around the time of that phase beginning that I realized that Sonic as a franchise is home to one of the most generationally divided fan bases, and the entity that is largely at fault for it is the developers of Sonic themselves. Sonic was forced to take on different identities time and time again until eventually people didn't quite know what Sonic was or what he was supposed to be. You had some kids grow up with Sonic 3, while others grew up with SA2, while others grew up with Black Knight, and now others who have grown up with Sonic Forces. All this combined with the rote antisocial traits of the fandom and the inability to have an academic debate about quite literally anything has led to a fanbase that is split into 7 or 8 different camps that all host relatively vitriolic people who believe Sonic should be or should return to what they had when they grew up. And this is largely a result of Sonic not having a stable evolution. Once the adventure era fell through, Sonic was bouncing off the walls like a kid on red candy. The advanced games were responsible for keeping the Genesis spirit alive while Adventure handled the 3D. Then, things started going off the rails, and before you knew it, Sonic was jumping through every hoop imaginable, looking at a world of discount God of War mechanics and dollar store Soul Calibur. Which is thoroughly disappointing when you realize that the Sonic franchise has seen so many ideas that could have been great, but were oftentimes rendered half-baked and never given legitimacy. But, what's making this entire situation worse is the blind hatred and blind apologetics of the fanbase, which I know Sega and Sonic Team undoubtedly see. Take for instance those Sonic Wii storybook games. The games received plenty of blind praise at first until people began to notice the flaws of Secret Rings, and then the storybook games together, by the time of Black Knight, garnered blind condemnation. Then, the years go by, and those little kids who grew up with the storybook games are now voicing that they had fun with the games and have nostalgia for them, which has led to a massive increase in blind apologetics. The storybook games are riddled with quality check problems and lack a lot of what made Sonic's 3D identity strong to begin with. But nevertheless, they do have redeeming qualities, whether that be in graphical fidelity, aspirations of creative ideas, and so forth. But, as with most of these conversations, complex opinions and sound argumentation made in good faith and honesty seems to be lost to time, with the internet especially. For many people, it's either all or nothing, and there can be no intellectual discourse. Even in the wake of Sonic Frontiers, I found many individuals with stances of blind hatred, and I found myself becoming a blind apologetic, simply trying to level the playing field until I stopped and realized that what I was doing nothing but furthering the cycle of ignorance and creating an unproductive discussion space with these figures. But this is not really anything new, considering how easy of a trap it is to fall into due to modern Western society and the failing education system not being all too concerned with the tactical psychology and academic strengths of its broad populace. And perhaps it is this way in the East as well, but I would be more out of the loop on it than anyone because it is something I've yet to research and my mind has only experienced the Western world and America in particular. And while the Sonic franchise largely has its home in the West, calling North and South America its biggest fans, I think many of these issues prevail because of people not being encouraged in honesty and good faith, in combination with the developers being more concerned about meeting the demands of the parent company than giving the public a stable image that isn't full of fuzz, static, and visual glitches. With Sonic Frontiers, it is apparent that much of the original vision was completely gimped due to the time constraints and implementation issues, which resulted in plenty of hovering platforms, chopped up land masses, and misaligned story events. One can only hope that Sega allows Sonic Team to complete the original vision through the DLC. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you can be the first to see new content from me and help my videos make their way to more people's recommendation pages. Thank you for watching, and this is Amzro out.